Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video I will be trying out a brand new resin from Elichem Resins and it's called EnviroCast. In fact, it's so new it's not even available in store until July 2023. So it's only a few weeks away, but it's all very exciting because it's actually a very special resin. It's different to all the others. It's been in the research stages for a long time and they finally got there with it and perfected it, and wait until you find out why it's so special. And so with the new EnviroCast resin, I'm going to be casting some lavender in a crystal mould to make a beautiful nightlight. If that sounds interesting, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Okay then, so here are my sample bottles of EnviroCast resin from Elichem Resins. The mixing ratio for the resin and hardener is 1:1 by volume. So that's what I'm going to be doing first, mixing up 50 millilitres of the resin and 50 millilitres of the hardener. This resin is quite versatile really, because you can use it for coating, you can use it for coasters and any castings up to 5 centimetres per layer. So yeah, it's a good all-rounder. So once it's poured out, it's ready to mix for around 2 minutes. So while I'm doing that, let me tell you all about this new resin, which really is quite a breakthrough. So for many years, Elichem Resins has been researching the possibility of supplying biomass-enhanced clear artwork resin systems using naturally derived raw materials. The new EnviroCast resin represents the latest innovation in bio-based polymer chemistry and is produced with a high content of carbon from plant origin. It has less petroleum-derived carbon and more naturally occurring carbon than any other resin in the Elichem product lineup. So EnviroCast really is a significant development in the terms of the reduced carbon content. The bio content in the part A is 33% and in part B it's 8%. So the carbon footprint of EnviroCast resin is around 40% less than a conventional petroleum-based epoxy system. I think it's a winner. So with all that said, let's see how it performs. Will it be just as good as any other epoxy resin? We will see. My first observation was that it's not too thick and not too thin. I would say it's a medium viscosity resin, a little bit like Mastercast actually. I don't know if you've tried that one before, but that's a very similar one to this. So because EnviroCast is so much kinder to the planet, I thought I would quite like to use something from nature in my project today. And I had a lot of dried lavender, and so that's what I'm using. I also wanted to use my crystal tower mould. Now, I did mention before that this resin has a maximum pouring depth of 5 centimetres in one layer, and I would need about 10 centimetres for the mould I'm using, and I didn't want 2 separate layers. Sometimes you can kind of see the line where the 2 layers meet, and I wanted to avoid that, so I came up with a bit of a different idea. I decided it would work well if I filled the mould at an angle and left it secure at an angle, so that the clear part was all at the front of the crystal tower when it's finished. This is kind of hard to explain, but you'll see. So yeah, the clear part would be at the front, and then I could use something else behind it, kind of as a backdrop. I thought white resin as a backdrop, so that you got the clear resin at the front with the flowers in, and then the white behind it to make it show up nicely. And so that was my idea anyway, and you know, it's good to experiment and see if these things work. Let's see if it does. So once my resin was in the mould, I tipped it at an angle, just enough so that the resin wouldn't pour out. You've got to be quite careful. And then just started adding the lavender quite carefully. I did it one at a time to make sure that each piece of lavender was completely covered in the resin. If I added it in a bunch, I would get pockets of air trapped in there. So that's why I'm adding them one at a time. What I like to do with my lavender before I put it into the resin is give it a good shake and a little tap on the table to make sure all the loose little flowers that you get on lavender, they do fall off very easily. So make sure that they'd all fallen off before I put the lavender into the resin. And yeah, it's a good tip to do that. And I'd also cut them to size as well before adding them to the resin. Once all my lavender was in the mould, I took a ceramic tile to lean the mould on so it had something nice and flat and it didn't distort. And I got it to the right angle and put something underneath it. I should have been more organised. I just took my pair of pliers, which was the nearest thing I had to hand. And actually, when I finished filming, I did change it a little bit because the angle wasn't quite right there. But that gives you the idea, doesn't it? I also pushed in the stems of the lavender because they were poking out a little bit. And then I left it secure. I actually left it until the next day, but it was ready about 5 hours later, I think. Right then, it's the next day and it's time to add the next layer, which is going to be the background for the flowers. And I don't know if you can tell, but the resin looks very gassy this time. I've already mixed it. I didn't want to go through showing you all that again. But yeah, it's looking gassy in this example. And that's because it's colder. It was a much colder day. We're having quite bad weather at the moment and it was cold. And so that's why it's quite gassy. And I would recommend warming up your part A and part B before mixing when this happens, you know, if you've got cold weather. But I should have done, but I didn't. Anyway, I'm using quite an opaque pigment for this and I wasn't too worried about it having, you know, the micro bubbles because you wouldn't be able to see them anyway. So I wasn't too worried. Right then, let's get on with what I'm doing. I took ages to decide what to have behind the lavender. I didn't know whether to just do it really glittery or to do what I've already said and use the white pigment. And I went for white in the end with a little bit of glitter. But to give the white a little bit of interest, I also used some of my Interference Purple mica powder in there, just to give it a little bit of colour. In the past, when I've used my interference mica powders, I have found that it doesn't dissolve well in resin. I don't know why, they're all the same. They just end up leaving little clumps of white powder in there, and I didn't want that. So I've just got a little cup here with a little bit of isopropanol alcohol, and I'm just adding the pigment to that to dissolve it first before adding it to the resin. And that way you get a nice smooth paste without big clumps of powder in there. I loved the look of the interference purple in the resin, but I still wanted to increase the opacity just a little bit. And so I used a little bit of white liquid pigment in there, just to make it a little bit whiter and not quite so transparent. So then it was just a case of pouring it in and adding some glitter. I used some white holographic glitter. It's the Sahara Galaxy glitter, and I will put a link to that in the description. And I've left a little bit of a space at the top as well because I wanted to do a last layer just with clear resin and glitter again, just to give it some more interest and to have some more light coming through, because I was kind of concerned because I'm going to use it, on a light LED light base, and I was concerned that the opacity of the white would just block the light. And so that's why I decided to have a clear bit at the bottom, just to make sure the light was able to get through. When that had cured, I did my usual trick of forgetting to press record. So basically all I did was I mixed up some clear resin, added some more of the same glitter as before, and just poured it in. So the next day it was time to take it out of the mould, and I was quite pleased that this mould worked so well. It's one that you can fold over on itself. The ones that you can't fold over can be a right pain, but yeah, with a bit of strength this one worked really well. This mould came in a set of 3 different sizes and it's from Resin. I'll put a link and a discount code in the description. So, after a bit of a pull, it was out. There it goes. So let's have a look, see how it turned out. I think the idea of filling it from an angle and curing it at an angle actually worked really well. I love the results. There are some air pockets in there trapped in the flowers, but that's nothing to do with the resin. That's just because it's flowers and there's loads of places for air to get trapped. And so here it is in my room on its LED base, and I think it looks really good. I'm very, very happy with it. And so what did I think of the BioCast bio resin? Well, I loved the viscosity of it. It was not too thick, not too thin, and I think it would be perfect for making special effects in coasters and jewellery items. I loved the optical clarity and the fact that it seemed to be virtually odourless, but most of all I loved the fact that 41% of it is made of biomass waste product. That's just amazing. Overall, I'm extremely impressed and I applaud Elechem Resins for its dedication in producing this amazing product. And so we've reached the end of the video. I would like to say thank you to Elechem Resins for sending me the sample to try out, and thank you to all of you for watching my video. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed and you would like to, please do that, and also give it a thumbs up. That's even more important. That really helps the video to get recommended and to get more views. All my links and discount codes will be in the video description, so be sure to go and have a look at that. And I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching and bye for now.